Hello and welcome to this, introduction to the game The Crown of the Gods. So, Crown of the Gods is essentially a clone of a game that is no longer in development, is no longer available, called Lord of Ultima. And it was basically an EA Studios sort of use of the Ultima IP. It didn't actually have anything to do with Ultima Online. It was just a really good MMO RTS. Now, there are not that many MMO RTSs out there on the market today. In fact, almost none exist. There are a few on mobile, but it's basically a dead genre, and I think Lord of Ultima was sort of, one of the last to go, but definitely it sort of was in that era of MMO RTS, which just never really caught on. I mean, it was popular for a while, but eventually player base dwindled, and so they closed it. So Crown of the Gods is basically a reincarnation of Lord of Ultima, and it's it's kind of in that spirit. It borrows some of the same mechanics. Obviously, all of the UI elements, all of the software is all new. This is not an illegal clone by any means of the imagination. In fact, a lot of people have asked, is this legal? It is absolutely legal. Software doesn't have the same protections as things like art, music, that kind of thing. So basically, as long as the code is different, even if it functions in the same way, it's not a problem. So the only thing that had to be changed, kind of really overhauled, was the art, because obviously that could not be cloned. That does have pretty harsh protections under US copyright law. So the art is a little bit different. You can see it's a different style, but it is along the same kind of lines. You've got your map here in the middle. You've got on the side your kind of resource management and build queues and that kind of thing. And then you've got this nice tutorial, which Lord of Ultima always had a great tutorial. So hopefully this tutorial will kind of take me through the game. I've not played this game before, just to be clear, and I don't know how many people actually do play it, so this should be interesting to kind of see whether or not this is an active game or not. I do see that right out of the gate I am given a global rank, and that global rank is actually pretty high. I don't know if that's just because of the server that we came into or how many servers there are, but if I'm just logging on for the first time, if I'm 1700 on the leaderboard, well, that doesn't say there's a lot of players playing on this server, but anyway, it should be interesting, and I just wanted to give it a try. I was never good at Lord of Ultima. I played it off and on, but I did really enjoy the style of game. I think an MMORTS it's a pretty engaging sort of take on the resource management, because instead of just being alone and really having no reason to manage resources in an effective way, you're constantly kind of comparing yourself to, again, the other people on the leaderboard, and it really pushes people to be very innovative and kind of push the limits of what's possible. So anyway, let's get into it. This is the tutorial. This is Ave Settler, and Ave is of course Latin for hail. I am Cornelius, and I will be your guide. You've got a great opportunity before you, but you must work fast. The land of Ashendal is ripe for conquering, and those who build their empires wisely will win rich rewards. Build up your first city and begin your path to glory. So we're going to begin this tutorial. First, let me show you your domain. This is your first city. Click and hold with your left mouse button or use arrow keys to move your map around. Fight well, and soon you will rule over a great empire of cities like this. Not bad, eh? So you can see this is the map, and it's actually not letting me. Okay, there it is. So if I just hold left mouse button, I can actually scroll around this map. I can also use the arrow keys. Interestingly enough, that's not working. It's, again, it's basically Lord of Ultima. You've got this domain, which is your first city, and it's this wide map, and I have everything in this map is mine. You can see there are walls here, and what's interesting of Lord of Ultima, and kind of like what makes the game a little bit special, is that there are resources around here, and you have to build your city to produce a certain number of resources. So you've got wood, you've got iron, or stone rather, you've got iron, and then you've got wheat. So this is kind of your food for your city. This is, for I think this is more for like siege weapons, or not siege weapons rather, but for military. And then stone and wood both have to be used for different things, but they're your kind of bread and butter resources. Basically, the way that this works is that when there are more resources around a certain area, when you build something, it will actually take the value of those resources that are around it, and kind of like Minesweeper, where it's like if there are more things around it, then it has some sort of special. No, Minesweeper is not a great analogy, but basically because there are this many iron pieces around here, if I build an iron mine here, for example, I don't know exactly what they call it, it will actually generate more iron than if I were to build it, for example, around this stone, or just in the middle of some field right here. The sea ports actually allow us to create ships and to create kind of more mobile troops that can move around the map better. So you can see the different views. We've got our city, that's the view we have here, our region, and our city should be in the middle of the region. Sorry, the computer's lagging a little bit here. I don't know if that's yeah. So basically the region is where your city is embedded, and then you have the world, and the world is quite massive. Hopefully it doesn't take too long to render, but basically the world is too big to kind of show at once, and so it creates this kind of very minimalist map just to kind of give you a sense of where everything is. But one thing you can see in the region and even in the world is all of these canals, all of these rivers, basically. And these rivers are going to allow you to move troops around much more efficiently, and because we actually have water attached to the city, we can build ports, we can move ships around. So Crown of the Gods is all about basically how do you use the resources of your domain to kind of efficiently create a production system that's kind of modeled to those resources. And so there's that kind of random aspect of if you get a lot of trees, well, that means that I'm going to have a great opportunity to make a lot of wood with this kingdom, with this domain. Whereas if I create another city, it might have a lot of iron, or it might have a lot of stone, or a lot of water. Water helps with the crops, obviously. So that's basically the idea. So let's just continue with this tutorial here. Okay, first let me show you your domain. This is your first city. Click and hold with your left mouse button. Okay, so we did do that. Your city is surrounded by strong walls. Great for keeping out the savage armies of your enemies. So you can see these walls here. These are level 1. Your basilica can be found in the center of your city. That's where all the important stuff happens. So this is our kind of our city hall, or the basilica as it's called. So this stores some of your resources, it produces wood, increases the number of buildings that you can add to your city, cannot be totally destroyed, and only one basilica can be built per city. So this is kind of the core of your city. Okay, so the gods have blessed you with the resources you need to seed a new empire. Wood, stone, iron, and food. Use them wisely. It's time to start gathering wood. Build a forester's hut by left-clicking an empty spot next to a few forest resources node. Few forest resource nodes, sorry. So you can see what he's saying. He's saying basically you don't want to just build it in the middle of nowhere. You want to build it by these woodland sort of areas. Then select the forester's hut from the building menu that appears on the left and click build. Okay. So basically we just want to click a spot here, and this looks like a great spot here. We've got a lot of wood here. This would be a good spot as well. This would be a good spot. I believe it's only adjacent tiles. I think diagonal does count, which is kind of what I meant by Minesweeper. Bit of a weird analogy though. Okay, so Forester's Hut. So I'm just going to build it right here. And it says, okay, Forester's Huts, increase your wood production, place Forester's Huts next to wood resources or cabins or sawmills to increase their output. So the other thing you can do, it's not just totally dependent on what these nodes are. You can also put it next to these cabins or sawmills, and those actually even increase your Forester's Huts as well. So there's a lot of kind of resource management that goes into Crown of the Gods. It's all about kind of trying to figure out how to really boost your resource output, and you can do that in a lot of creative ways, which is part of what makes this game interesting. It's not just about plonking down some hut in a random place and then just waiting an hour for it to build and this kind of thing. A lot of these mobile games that have sort of taken over the MMORTS genre, they're kind of just cash grabs. They're not really about planning or anything like this. It's basically you might as well just have an auto build button that just automatically builds whatever you should build next. Like there's no real planning that goes into it. Whereas here you have to be very conscientious about where you're putting things and how to maximize output. In fact, I imagine there were, or I remember there were old tools where you could actually kind of spoof a build and then actually test the production. So that was actually quite cool with Lord of Ultima, that there were even these kind of strategy build tools that would help you maximize, the production, that kind of thing. Anyway, so we're just going to build this here, and you can see it just takes 10 seconds here. If I remember correctly, Lord of Ultima was very nice about actually allowing you to build pretty quickly. You didn't have to wait days or weeks or whatever just to build one thing, and you will be building a lot because we're going to need a lot of resources. Okay, it's time to start gathering wood. Okay, so we did that. Okay, so now we want to go to, what was it pointing to? Oh, the amount of wood collected per hour has now increased. Got wood? You do now. Okay, so this guy's a little bit cheeky. So basically, we've completed this quest or whatever, so we get a nice little gift here. Constructing several foresters' huts will give you more wood income per hour. Why not build 2 more foresters' huts and see for yourself? So we're going to build this one here. This is actually the best, it looks like. We've got 3 here and 2 here, so that's going to be 5 extra. And sorry about the slowdown here. My computer's a little bit kind of flaky at the moment. I don't know what it's doing here. Doesn't seem to want to select anything, which is strange. One of the things that you can see here is just, but I'm just going to wait to see if this actually does anything. But anyway, just looking on the side here under Quick Build, you can see how many different things you can actually build. So you've got, barracks, you've got farm estates, you've got forums, you've got villas. And what's interesting about this is that there are lots of different stats that you can actually explore. It's not just about building the biggest military and just kind of, mowing down the surrounding countryside. A lot of this has to do with the resource management. So a lot of these things do things to your population to help population grow. A lot of things help with resource management, that kind of thing. There's a lot of trade mechanics here, not as many as in other games, but definitely there's a lot here, and you can see how interesting some of these things become. You've got things like sorcerer's towers, so you can create a lot of interesting units. And things like traps, ports. So this is what I was talking about with the sea. You can actually build this by a sea, and there are lots of different dynamic kind of relationships between the different things that you can build. So you can see here, place a villa next to a port to boost the villa's taxes. So the villa does something on its own, but placed next to a port, it actually does more. So I'm still not getting the ability to actually click anything. I don't know if that's a bug in this. Okay, so there you go. So we just switched view for a second, and if I actually selected this here, you can see that the wood production upon upgrade is, so the wood production is 56. So what I want to do here is just kind of do a little hypothesis test here. If I click this, it's saying it's only going to produce, where's this? This is 56. This produces, alright, let's see here. What does this produce? This produces 65. So you can see here, being next to more of these trees, and it is really adjacent pieces that actually count, boosts your output by quite a bit actually. And that scales as well. So we're going to choose one more, and we can choose this one. That'll give us another 4. But the other thing you want to think about is you also want to think about, it's kind of this kind of recursive idea. So you think about the trees. You want to be around trees, but you also want to place your sawmills in such a way that they can benefit from cabins, right? Because cabins will... so you can see cabins also increase the productivity of any resource gathering buildings adjacent to them. The other things you can do, go to build, is the sawmill, I think is the other place. You just find that here, sawmill. I don't actually see that. I don't know if that's farther down here or what. Smelter. I can see everything except sawmill. I don't know if I'm just missing that. Okay, there it is. So you can see, boost the output of bordering foresters' huts and increase the wood storage capacity of any bordering storehouses. So you see how these things get kind of complicated, where you're trying to kind of plan these things out, and you can put a lot of work into just, oh, did not want to do that. Okay, I'm glad that it denied me that. Okay, so I just wanted to build this last forester's hut, and you can see that once we build this, we will have completed this tutorial quest. So basically we've got good production. You can see, almost 500 per hour is what this is going to come out to. Let's see here. Just want to quit out of that. So there's our 56 again because we're around 4. And okay, we can continue, and yeah, you can see almost 500 wood per hour, so that's pretty good. Okay, what you really need is a few extra pairs of hands. Build cabins next to production buildings like a forester's hut. Makes them more productive per hour. Okay, so let's click here, and then we want to build a cabin right next to these. You know, kind of the most productive cabins are the ones that are next to like 3 here, so we could do, you know, we could do 1, 2, and then we could have like a cabin here. Well, because there's a wall there, it's kind of hard. So anyway, we're just going to build our cabin here, and you can see here housing for peasants. It's saying there's a wood production of 56 on here. So let me build this and see how this affects. So again, this is 65, this is 56. Once we build this, this becomes 66, and this becomes 57. Wait, that seems strange. Isn't 56 the normal? That's not a huge bonus, I'm not gonna lie. That's a bit... Huh. Wasn't this 65 and this was 50? Yeah. So this is a bonus of 2. I mean, obviously this will scale as this gets upgraded, but yeah, that's a bit interesting. Anyway, so let's go take a look at your build queue on the left. Check your construction speed at the top of the build queue, and you'll see it's increased by 4% now that you've built a cabin. Many hands make light work. So this is the other thing, like instead of having just a huge kind of complicated, you know, gold system where you can just buy gold to just spam build, this kind of thing, you know, instantly build, Crown of the Gods has a great system where it'll actually, you know, build into the resource management, that kind of, you know, aspect of the game, the construction aspect of the game, the ability to build things more quickly. And so one of the things you have to be very cognizant of is how quickly am I able to actually implement the builds that I want. You know, on their own, for example, things could take 2 days, you know, 3 days to actually build. But as long as you manage your cabins and this kind of thing, and you boost that that production speed, then you'll actually, you know, cut these things down to, you know, half a day or something like that. So it actually really helps, and it means you don't have to just basically, you know, it doesn't turn this into a pay-to-win game where whoever has the most gold builds things, you know, the quickest and is able to expand their empire as large as possible. Because realize, there's the other thing to realize, this is just one city. This is like, in the scope of things, this is just one. You could have 10 of these. So, you know, you might think, oh, does it really matter to actually boost your production speed? Yes, it does, because as soon as you're able to produce more in one city, you're able to move to the next city, and so on and so forth. So it really has this snowball effect. Anyway, that's my little spiel about that. Let's continue here and get our 150 wood. Okay, so the other thing you need, obviously, is a storehouse to put them here. And it says increase your resource storage. These can be placed anywhere within your city. And I think basically what that means is that it doesn't matter what they're next to. It does say increase the amount the storehouse can hold by placing it next to sawmills, mason huts, grain mills, or smelters. We don't have any of those, but we might, you know, think about planning to have them, because again, they do boost. Let's say the sawmill, for example. I just had it. Sawmill boosts the output of bordering foresters' huts and increases the wood storage of any bordering storehouses. So we might want to have a sawmill, for example, bordering... Now this is kind of surrounded by forest on all sides, so that's not bordering much, but you know, we could have it here, for example. This is not a great place to place a sawmill. That would boost this, or not a great place to place a forester's hut. Place it here, storehouse there, and then the sawmill could boost both. I think this is next to 2. I don't know, I think we might just put it in a random place. Somewhere here, maybe. Yeah. We could do here. And the sawmill. Let's go here. Let's go here, that's fine. Okay. You will notice, let me exit out of here. If I click on this, So moving is not a simple thing, right? If you've played any of these MMORTSs on the phone, moving is like takes half a second. It's very simple. There's just kind of no real thought put into it. So you can see here, move this building. Moving a building will reduce your move slots by 1. Now I don't know if those can be upgraded or if those are something that are regenerated, but anyway, the basic idea is that you want to be clear about why you're placing something somewhere. You don't just place things in random places for the hell of it. So anyway, we'll look back at that. But anyway, we got our storehouse. Okay, your storage capacity for each resource is increased by 2,500 units. And the nice thing is that this is actually this boosts all resources. So you just have to build storehouses. You don't have to build storehouses specific to particular resources. It's kind of nice. Keep an eye on your available free space, so that you always have free space for more. Waste not, want not, right. Check your resource storage capacity now by hovering your cursor over your resource total. So you can see here, this is what we have. This is our total wood in the city, the wood generated per hour, and then the total wood capacity of the city is 7,500. And that's the same for all of these resources. Okay, that's pretty straightforward. Okay, upgrading your basilica increases the number of buildings you can construct in your city and unlocks plans for new buildings. Click the basilica in the center of the city and select upgrade to level 2. So we can actually upgrade this here. And this is important. I don't know what the capacity is here. So we get bonus wood production, bonus resource storage, it looks like. Building details, is that something? Don't actually. I was just looking to try and see what the capacity, building capacity is, but I don't actually see a number here. So you can see here the build queue. We've got 6 slots, which is quite a lot. Construction speed. The enlistment queue. So this is for building troops. And then there are things you can do. You can trade. You can build up defenses. You can get reinforcements. You can command. So you can actually send troops out to do things. One of the differences between kind of the traditional MMORTSs like this game and those that you find on mobile is that they don't have the kind of the back and forth sort of tower defense mechanisms that a lot of those games have. So a lot more of this comes down to resource management, and the troops are kind of their own sort of resource, and they're not really. There's not a lot of mechanical strategy, let's say, to actually attacking other cities, but there's much more kind of macro level strategy in terms of who you attack, when you attack them, what kind of alliances they have, that kind of thing. So these games are a little bit different. If you're used to that sort of tower defense kind of game, you might find this a little bit disappointing, but that's just the nature of the game. And from what I can see, it's very well implemented. It really looks like they put a lot of care and work into this game. This is not something they just threw together. It really does have that kind of the Lord of Ultima feel, which I really appreciate. And even though it doesn't look exactly the same, a lot of these things are quite similar, and it's just the overall feel. There's a lot of care that went into this game, and that's what you really felt playing Lord of Ultima. There were, back in the heyday of this genre of game, there were so many MMORTSs. It's what everyone wanted to build because it was quite a simple game to build, practically speaking. And honestly, the vast majority of them were just terrible. No effort put into them. They had terrible player bases. But Lord of Ultima was really an exception. It was a very different kind of game, but it really did kind of take that sort of genre and drill it down to a science. So if you were a fan of the genre, then you would definitely have been a fan of Lord of Ultima. And I think you'll be a fan of Crown of the Gods. It's a great game so far, and it's the sort of thing where these are not games that you're meant to sink hours into just focused on. They're nice to kind of tap in and out of. It's more about resource management and alliances and more macro level strategy. It's not so much about again, fiddling with mechanics or that kind of thing. It's quite nice. It's totally browser based and low on the resources. I'm actually recording this currently, and my computer is super low powered, and it's running the game fine. The graphics look nice. It's got again nice textures and everything, so it is actually really a pleasant game to look at, and you know, that's really nice. So anyway, let's go back to this tutorial. Let's try and get this tutorial finished and see what we get to. So it's going to say check the number of check the number on the top right hand side of the building queue. So you can see the building queue to see how many more buildings you can construct. What? The building queue. Is that? Oh, okay, 15. Yeah, number of buildings in the city, number of buildings allowable for your current basilica level. Okay. So you can see, really great tutorial, actually, really walks you through everything. So your basilica is now level 2, which means your city can support up to 20 buildings, and you have also unlocked new building plans. We'd like to reward you with 1,000,000 denarii. Don't even know what that is. It's time to gather some stone. You'll need plenty of it for buildings and resources, and defenses, sorry. Build a stone mine next to some stone resource nodes, sorry. And remember, the more stone nodes, the better. So again, we're going to look here for stone nodes. Here's quite a good one, actually. So we're going to look for a stone mine and build it. Just looking around here, it doesn't look like we've got that many. That's a pretty good spot. You know, if we sit there, that's 3. This is 2 spread out here. This is not great, actually. Yeah, so stone production here is not going to be great. And this is what I mean by kind of the randomness of what city you get. And where does that actually come from? That's a good question. So basically, this is our place right here. That's the little blue flag is saying this is our place. What basically determines what kind of resources are going to be around is what your city's next to. So you can see, because it's next to this river, that means that we're going to have a port. We're going to have that, or not a port specifically, but we're going to have this river right here. So if it was built over here, for example, or let's say here, because it's not close to a river, you know, it has to really be adjacent, then we wouldn't have that opportunity. Now you can see here, these kind of resources around here, these are going to determine what kinds of things are available. So I think this means iron, this means stone, and then this means like, or no, these mean like wood. So basically, you know, for example, if I were to build one here, I would have water and a lot of wood generation. So you can kind of determine, based on where you place your city, what kind of resources it's going to be efficient at generating the most. You can see also I've got a neighbor here. What I can do here is I can actually attack this city. If I continue, is there any way to move this tutorial? Okay, yeah. So what I can do is I can actually send troops, and once I've sent them, then it'll create an attack, and the attack can actually fail, or it can, you know, it can fail terribly, or it can fail sort of, or it can succeed, or it can succeed really well. So that's kind of how it works. It's the classic RTS. You know, get your troops together to kind of attack a city. But there's a lot of, this is where kind of the intelligence comes in here. You can do things. You can scout cities. So you can scout cities. You can try and, you know, sort of figure out what sort of defenses they have. You can plunder cities, so you can focus on just taking resources as opposed to actually, you know, destroying the city. You can siege cities, and when it's a castle, so the city is actually cannot be attacked. It can be plundered, okay, but it cannot be attacked. It cannot be destroyed unless it's a castle. And a castle is basically a sort of a PvP city. So instead of just having, you know, castles being, or every city being destroyed by, you know, really powerful other players, basically until you've built a castle, until you've actually made your city into a castle, it can't be fought. So what that means is it can't actually be taken. But once it becomes a castle, and this is where the really cool PvP, you know, instead of just tower defense where you're just kind of mining resources, you can actually take other people's cities, which is really, really fun. It creates this great dynamic, you know, where you really feel like a sort of a you know, someone who's really, you know, taking kind of both resources and also players off the map. So anyway, that's something to look forward to, but that'll take a while to actually get up to. You know, we have to build troops and this kind of thing, and obviously you can't just attack any city, and because of how big the map is, it actually takes a while to get you know, troops around, and that's part of why you use these rivers, for example. So I could use this river to actually travel, you know, via river more effectively. So anyway, let's move on in this tutorial and see. Okay, so your stone mine is now mining stone, which can you see in your resource display. Big piles of rocks. which you can see in your resource display. Big piles of rocks are coming your way. He tries to make always some sort of joke. You're doing pretty well so far. Here's 200 stone to get you started. You'll need it. Okay, it's time to build your city wall. So stone is basically for the defenses, right? That's where that mostly goes. So we're going to build our replacement to the city wall. I don't know if that went through there. It's not queuing up. No, it already queued up. So, I hope I didn't queue 2 upgrades, did I? No, it doesn't clear it. So you can see here's the build queue, and basically this is going to upgrade our city wall, improve our defenses, and definitely once we turn this into a castle, we're going to need solid defenses. So that's quite good. Okay, so you can actually click on this and you can see what this good gets. So different wood production, and so yeah, you can demolish things. Yeah, okay, so there we go, we did that. Nice job. So it gives defensive bonuses to units, so you actually have to have units queued up to defend. Okay, now that your city is big enough to notice, it's time to start making contingency plans. So you can build hideaways. This is a really cool mechanic. So you can actually build places where you can hide resources. So instead of just having resources open to the public to be plundered all the time, you build hideaways where you can hide a portion of your resources, so you never get cleaned out, even if you do get plundered. And remember, even if your city is not a castle, it can still be plundered. So you have to think about this from day one. So build a hideaway to protect some of your resources in case your city is plundered. You want to build them beside forest resource nodes to increase their capacity. Okay, and obviously these are, let's see, hideaway. Right, okay, so these are the things you want to build. Let me just quit out of that. So let's see where we can build this. Usually you want to build them in places where you wouldn't be like super interested in building a forester's hut, so you don't want to build them next to a ton of wood, just a bit of wood. So somewhere like here looks like a good place. Let's build a hideaway here. And you can see here, things don't take long. It's just a few seconds, honestly. Now, if I wanted to upgrade this wall, though, you can see that actually the upgrade to level 2 does take half an hour, which is kind of a lot of time. But again, we haven't started building a lot of cabins and that kind of thing and increasing our efficiency. That will help a lot. Okay, we can get a lot of resources from that. So upgrade to level 3, you can see this only takes 40 seconds. So really, at least early on, it can be very nice to just kind of, keep building. You don't have to tab out for too long. And, once you get to higher levels, yes, the upgrades are going to take longer. But again, you're not going to be there, in front of the game just watching things upgrade. You're going to be tabbing out, doing other things, coming back to it in a little while. And, it helps. What's nice about MMORTS is that they really allow you to kind of, progress takes time, and so there's this kind of, this natural barrier to progress, so that when you actually progress, it feels good, because you're not just, it's not just that you click buttons a million times, it's that time actually passed, you actually, sort of plan things out. So there's that reward there. Okay, as your buildings increase in level, they take more time and resources to upgrade. Okay, you can view your city information again by closing the Basilica window on the left. Well done. Okay, you're ready to start recruiting troops, and troops eat a whole lot. If you don't have food to feed them, they'll abandon you. So it's time to round up a few peasants and tell them to plant things. Build a farm estate next to one of your lakes while bordering as many empty fields as possible. These things will increase farm estate's food production. So kind of interesting. You want to be next to a pool, but you also want to be next to as many empty fields. So you kind of want to be somewhere here, right? So I'm actually going to go somewhere here. Looks pretty good. Okay, so, and this is is that the farm estate? Yeah. Some of the names are a little bit different. Okay, so farms grow crops in adjacent fields, producing food for your troops. Place farms next to lake resources, empty fields, cabins, or a grain mill to increase their output. So you'll see here it actually generates, or it should at least, or it generates based on the empty fields as well. So this, and then all these empty fields. So this is like a perfect spot to put it. Okay, now that you built the city worth guarding, it's time to acquire some guards. Build a guard house to enlist your basic military unit. The guard, these trusty fellows, will defend your city against defenders, or rather attackers. So let's build a guard house, and I actually want some information on this thing here. Where do I get that information? Is that here? Yeah, okay. So, upgrade your guardhouse to increase its guard enlistment rate. Guard numbers and enlistment speeds are not dependent on barracks. Okay, so it doesn't seem to be interested in any kind of, being close to anything. So we're just going to build it somewhere here. Or here, maybe. Yeah, that looks reasonable. Guardhouse. Okay, build that. And hopefully this tutorial is not too long, actually. I don't remember. I do remember the Lord of Ultima 1 was rather long. It does actually really kind of drag you through the whole game in a sense. But I might cut this video off if it gets too long. Let's see here. So we've built our guardhouse. Now we want to enlist troops. Okay, so you can view the enlistment menu by pressing the enlistment button at the top of the toolbar. Okay. Unavailable units are grayed out, and this will become available as you level up your city. Enlist 3 guards by entering the number 3 in the guard input field, and hit enlist. So we can enlist as many as 31, and that number has to do with food production per hour. You can see that they actually consume food, and so they reduce that production per hour, and also the resources we have. So let's enlist them. So not. Wait. Let me see here. Yeah, okay, so it's enlisting. So this takes a little bit longer. Training troops takes a while because obviously, if you could just turn around and train troops in a second, losing troops in battle would not really be like a hefty cost, and it is. So you want to be very careful. That's why you want to use things like scouts and that kind of thing to actually, try the waters before you just send off your army, because if it gets destroyed, it can be quite costly, honestly. Okay, so this is going to take a while here. So luckily for whippersnappers like you, there are a few rules around here when it comes to battling. The gods have decreed that no one is able to attack new contenders for their first week to give them a chance to get ready to fight. So that's a sort of grace period. I think that's what this is. I don't know. Is that not? Spend this first week mostly by strengthening your city and seeking stronger allies to fight and trade with. This is just player information. So you can see reputation rank, offensive rep rank, things like that. So it does give you a lot of info. Actually the computer's slowing down a little bit here. Okay, let's just continue if we can. The food demands of the units you have enlisted can be seen by hovering your cursor over the food income. Okay. Is he giving me that for the guards that we enlisted, or what? Not sure. Okay, it's time to build a ranger post to give you a bit of extra protection. These can be constructed on any tower section of your city wall. Select a tower section to build a ranger post. You can't yet enlist rangers, but your guards can use it until then. So, the ranger post increases the defensive abilities of a limited number of rangers by 100% when the city is attacked by enemy units. Each ranger can be replaced by 1 guard if there are not enough rangers to fill the ranger post. So we're just going to put it right here, I guess. It doesn't matter where it is. It's, maybe put it here. Again, you don't want them in places where they're going to kind of take resources away from other things. Let's see if we can't find some terrible place where you would never want to put anything. Yeah, that's pretty close. Let's see, where was that? A ranger post. What is this? Won't let me build it? What does it need? Oh, is this built on walls? No. What? For some reason I remember the ranger posts as being... What's this? Well, we enlisted everyone, so now we just need to build this ranger post. Oh, yeah, okay, right, yeah, it has to be built on walls. Huh. Don't know what I was thinking. So, basically, this ranger post is going to be one of the many things you can put on the walls, and these are the things that kind of help your defenses. So, you can put traps and these kind of things, I think, on the walls, to really help strengthen the defense of the city. You're going to need strong defenses, honestly. There are going to be some very powerful players out there. Okay, it's time to upgrade your Basilica to level 4. Now, how long is this going to take? Okay, 1 minute 30. So I think that's probably a good place to end this video. I don't know actually what the runtime is, but it's probably a little bit long already, so I'm just going to cut it off there. This was just the first part of the tutorial, and hopefully this gave you a little bit of an overview of, the first steps into Crown of the Gods, and also, kind of what this game is, what kind of things it can offer, what kind of things it doesn't offer, and yeah, if anything you see here looks interesting, definitely pick up the game. It is free to